Well, hello, that's me again. Today is February 17th, 2025. It is Monday. Happy Monday. And from the get-go, I want to explain if somebody really uh, have questions about it. Why don't I pay that much attention anymore to all those troop movements in, for example, what's left of Ukraine? And the explanation is very simple. I am not into the tactical minutiae because I know who are those people who command and control the Russian army and armed forces in general, for me to even question the result or the outcome of this slaughter which was happening for the last 3 years, and many in the United States and in the West in general wanted to actually ignore it, well, because they needed to cover their war crime and what they created in the middle of Europe, geographical Europe. So I would dare to now argue that Russia is not present Europe. Russia is Europe by on its own terms, and what Europe could have been probably a century ago or so. But to kind of, before I go into, well, commenting on some things which, of course, this fast-paced situation with the United States and Russia deciding to kind of talk about it, nothing is predetermined and we might end up having nothing to show for it. But here is the dynamics for the armed forces of Ukraine losses. And as you can see yourself, we have now a pronounced trend of the fewer people on the part of Ukraine being killed, which is pretty much simple explanation. They simply do not have enough resources. They do have reserves, some reserves, which they feed constantly in Kursk area, which of course is the, well, pretty much British idea with some American input. As we know, it was such a great idea that now more than 60,000 have been killed there of the armed forces of Ukraine. So, but this is the pronounced trend, and it will continue because essentially what's left, we know that the issue of the mobilization of 18 through 24 actually years, well, basically kids, is being seriously considered, but it wouldn't change anything at all. And so once we stated this, so for anybody who wants to go and, again, among my audience, and listen to all those tactical minutiae that the Russians took today, several villages again, moved onto another kilometer here and there. So yeah, they may continue, but primarily what is happening right now, there are so-called meat attacks where they throw whatever they can master, those people from Kiev Nazi regime. They throw like company or so, they go in, they get killed, most of them. The Kursk, for example, today is the one field of the burning NATO equipment. How symbolic. And that's it, so, and now we going to go into this whole situation with which is extremely, fast-paced and dynamic, if you wish, with Russia and United States deciding to, open the possibility at least talking to each other, which of course is already improvement over what it was during Biden administration. And I warn you again, if somebody has any huge hopes that some kind of the new configuration will come out of it, again, don't have those hopes. We are only at the beginning of the way or the path, if you wish, to some sensible outcome. What we might not get it. In fact, is as, for example, wonderful Colonels Daniel Davis and McGregor stated yesterday when talking about this whole situation, Douglas McGregor correctly states that Trump can't force Putin into anything. Simple as that, because Russia is in no rush or in no hurry to really do anything about what Europeans want. And that means Europeans want only freezing of the conflict. And well, let me show you something which Mr. Lavrov today stated about these negotiations. And he states, as you can see yourself today, that the philosophy of Europeans has not gone anywhere. And philosophy of Europeans, we know what it is. It's not Russophobia, it's Russia hatred, visceral hatred. And so I don't know what they should do at the negotiating table. If they chicken some, chicken, he is using the gypsy being, of course, the real gypsies who, well, basically cheat you while doing whatever the terror thing or predicting your future. But that's what it is. If they chicken some sly ideas about freezing the conflict and themselves, according to their customs, temper and habits, have in mind the continuation of the war, then they why invite them there, he said. So Mr. Lavrov pretty much says it clear. Europe has no business being there, and so we'll see where it all goes. But yes, Europe is not a partner. It's existential enemy of Russia and Russian people, and that's where it should belong, as the enemy and removed from any kind of the basically shaping of the global agenda. And I will talk about this in depth in a minute, but Lavrov's statement is very clearly actually underscores what, for example, Caroline Levitt stated yesterday, and evidently it's now making all kinds of the news, if you wish, when she talks about that she posted what essentially should be that Scholz rejects dictated peace for Ukraine after Trump-Putin call. And so she says, Bundeskanzler, choose your words carefully. The only place Germany deserves in these negotiations is in the dock. And the dock being, of course, the bench or the place where the accused face the justice in the courtroom. So if somebody think that the dock is necessarily the place where the ships are being, painted or cleaned or any kind of the hull work is being done. So there you go. And you have this directly from the White House, and that tells you everything you need to know in terms of attitude of, for example, Mr. Trump, who views, I think, the whole European establishment as nothing more than the extension of the party of chaos and criminals, especially its central committee, which is the Democratic National Committee, which they are. They are financed, they have been financed through the United States, and as the result, those are genocidal maniacs, especially in this critical capitals such as Berlin, such as Paris, such as London, and of course such as Rome, among others. And so if you think so that there is some kind of the compromise possible between Russia and Europe, I have a bridge to sell you, and the issue here is very simple. As I already stated, Russians understand Europe and Europeans. Not all, make no mistake. I already anticipate some kind of people and Europeans who have integrity, honor, and decency writing in my, comments below my video that, oh, I am Belgian, oh, I am French, and I'm German, and we are not like this at all here. I agree, not all. But majority, as I already stated, numbers do not lie, consistently basically manifest and exhibit actually these tendencies in Europeans who view Russians with hatred. Not just phobia, hatred. And so that's what it is. The numbers, so to speak, the percentages of those majorities who view Russia and Russians like this is the separate matter, and, we can always obviously discuss this whatever we want until hell freezes over, but the point is that those are majorities, above 50%, and nothing we can do about it. It's not gonna change. And because especially when we're standing basically at the precipice of a complete overhaul of the global system. And in addition, we have to keep in mind, as I repeat ad nauseam, that superpowers move in their own world completely differently from those chihuahuas, like European states. And let me explain why they are chihuahuas. But before I go, I have to actually state that we have now those I mean, sappy sentimental jerks from Europe, even breaking into tears, upon the closing of this, Sabbath, basically coven at Munich conference. And so that tells you everything who they are. They understood that they are really scared, and you have to understand that they're really scared. And then essentially these are people who never held a real job in their life, and they don't know what they're dealing with. So much so that, you know what, we have this, which is Cretan, Nigel Farage calls him imbecile, which I agree. There are no other people in the, for example, intellectual and political elite in the United Kingdom across the board. The military is a joke. I mean, the fact is, most of the British military and officers, they are, well, ignoramuses and nincompoops. They wouldn't be allowed to command a squad in any serious army. But here's Mr. Starmer. I'm ready and willing to put British troops in Ukraine. He announced, it's allegedly puts pressure on European leaders to do the same at summit in Paris. As you know, Mr. Macron, called on himself that, I'm the guy who will be leading, this, defense of the euro from the United States. So, and relations between the EU and the United States continue to deteriorate. French President Emmanuel Macron convened the summit of European leaders to work out a common response to pressure from Washington. Experts know that Brussels will have to adapt its foreign policy positions to the opinion of the White House and challenge it unequivocally. How will this affect the EU? But we have we have here the situation with the even Polish Foreign Minister Radoslaw Sikorski, that he expects a very serious discussion. The problem for him and for Europeans is that Sikorski states very clearly, European countries will not create one united army, says Poland Sikorski. Well, I know, because it is impossible in current Europe to create unified army. And there are so many conditions and criteria which have to be met to even, create anything resembling this kind of, unified European army. So, and if that hasn't been enough, we have now this, the same telegraph with some boy, Daniel Hardacre, talking about that NATO at odds with Ukraine over Soviet-style tactics. British defense sources have accused Zelensky troops of wasting expensive weapons and equipment. So, and these are sources, obviously, British defense sources. That means what? You can find any Chapiteau circus near you on any county fair and go there, and they will explain to you those things better than any Chatham House, MI6 or British military, because there's no difference. And so, but the point is, the British have the egg and, well, and other substance which have been poured over them with their, so to speak, combat experience, and they are basically in the state of facing the reality who they are. They're nobodies. And this is not to, insult British people who obviously have now economic stimuli which actually make life in the United Kingdom miserable. No, it's just the fact that United Kingdom doesn't have serious political elite. They are all morons, including those British, military people, as I already stated, who won't be able to command all kinds of, even platoon in the Ukrainian army, let alone in Russia. One. So, and we have this degeneration and decomposition all across the Europe, and as the result, we have to consider why, for example, when I say that Europe cannot create any kind of the unified army, not to speak of the obvious fact that United States views Europe as the market for its weapons, and it will shove down the throat of Europeans all kind of American military industrial complex products, so to speak, and Europeans will pay. But here is the issue. For those people who still think that somehow Europe is what it used to be, and it, somehow the massive economic power, which allegedly it is, I have some news. When I say that superpowers move in a very different, universe, in a very different league, and there are only three of them. This is, of course, United States, China, and Russia. You have to understand that the weight in terms of military political weight and military industrial weight is very different. And just to demonstrate to you, I constantly remind about this, but it is worth constantly reminding and constantly essentially basically making this one of this line on your brains, including my brain, to keep in mind this whole thing about how the real world basically moves. And this is why many people, including my recent communication with wonderful Pascal on the neutrality studies, when he asks me, but what is the professional industrial, so to speak, framework, why you have been most of the time fairly accurate? I explained to him, and I said, because I don't look at the financial side of this. I don't count those, dollars or euros or rubles, what have you, because I look at the tangibles, and this is the only way to look at it. I am, in this respect, classic materialist. I'm not Marxist. I use Marxist method, but I am, I am very much capitalist in my approach to life, but Marxist materialistic ideas, so to speak, of how you view productive forces, they are certainly not in those high rises where the office plankton really lives. And so here it is. Let me remind you, Jeffrey Barnett. It was written in 1992 in the Parameters, which is the U.S. Army War College publication. And here he explains, I quote him, why the West at that time was leading the world. Look at this attentively. As you can see yourself, that there are 14 points, those fundamental 14 points. In red, I already underlined what already is not the case with the combined West. And so the others in the green, for example, it's abdicating. And here we are. As you can see yourself, out of those 14 points, 11 are all directly related to the industrial scientific R&D capability. And look at this. We discuss, obviously, owns and operates the international banking system. Nobody cares this anymore because, and Mr. Trump, issuing threat to BRICS regarding the dollar, but it doesn't matter. I mean, you don't have to fight the dollar. It's enough to basically ignore it, and that will be it. And this is what is happening, and nothing he can do about it. But look at this. The world's principal customer, yes, still is. Provides the majority of the world's finished goods? Not anymore. It is the Asia which provides the majority of the world's finished goods, with the small exception, as you can see yourself, dominates aerospace industry, but only in commercial sense, because basically we'll talk about it why it is not the case, and it's abdicating in this respect. Obviously exerts considerable moral leadership. It's obviously funny. Yeah, it still does in some places like India, but primarily the rest of the world looks at the combined West as the, basically, abdicating civilization which created so much chaos and killed so many people all around the world that, there's no moral leadership. It is the absolutely corrupt civilization. And for example, Mr. J.D. Vance said so much so about, for example, Europeans. So, and when you look at it, now, when you look at this, it's capable of massive military intervention. No, it's not capable of massive military intervention unless it is some kind of the country which is the third world, if not the fourth world. But then again, you don't need massive military intervention. So it's all, moot point, because, there is no chance, especially for Europeans, to mount any kind of military intervention. So, and when you look at, for example, controls leading edge technical education, not anymore, and Russia, China are leading this, and dominates access to space. Also not absolutely not the case anymore, albeit, for example, American, especially unmanned space program in terms of the deep space is amazing. It's a state-of-the-art program, and we of course also have to keep in mind about those wonderful telescopes which are Webb telescope and still Hubble and all that. So yeah, this is there, but it's not just straightforward anymore. Actually, Russia is building her own space station. She has the new spaceship coming in, and of course, the Sphere program works, in the so to speak, high gear. And Russians put satellites as there is no, put up satellites into orbit as there is no tomorrow, including of course military satellites. So when you look intensively at this, you suddenly recognize, well, yeah, correct. And if United States still has the chance to somehow preserve this, we certainly have to keep in mind the situation with the actual tangibles, which, for example, combined West and especially Europe have to face. And here, let's take a look at things which constitute those 14 points and are in the foundation of the composite index of national capability, which of course involves human capital. And yeah, all these human capital things, ratings created in the West are all garbage. It's all trash. So, but still, human capital, steel production, and things of this nature, not to speak about, of course, resources and things of this nature. Russia sits on the 1/3 of the world resources practically in every single category, from oil to rare earth minerals, what have you. So, and here we are. Let's take a look at what really matters. Well, look at this at the electricity prices for the households. This is March 2024. Pardon me, and as you can see yourself, for households, yeah, you can see yourself that Italy leads the way here, Germany, United Kingdom, France. So, well, you have Russia, and as you can see yourself where Russia is. But that's households. Let's take a look at electricity prices for businesses. And as you can see yourself, for businesses, Russia is, yeah, it's very cheap. United Kingdom, however, look at this. So you understand now why United Kingdom, and yeah, it can probably put their battalion with some kind of the outdated garbage Challenger tanks into Ukraine. They wouldn't last there for a week probably. And as you can see yourself, all this wonderful Western civilization as Europeans, they are simply not competitive, period. No matter what they try to produce, it's gonna be overpriced, and large parts of it will be, well, not good quality anymore. And that's one of the hugely important metrics. Then, of course, because we are dealing here with the organizations which do not move really fast, but since 2022, look at this, we have the situation as I already pointed out many times, and here it is. These are the countries which produce energy on the equivalent of the million tons of oil equivalent. As you can see yourself, yeah, you can take a look at France. It's not even here in the top 10. You can see pale United Kingdom here. Same goes for Germany. So yeah, when you don't have resources, and France even is there because they have a large portion, actually majority of the energy produced in their nuclear power stations, but they are also getting rusty, as a matter of fact. So as you can see yourself, that picture speaks volumes, and it didn't change even today to 2024. But then, of course, let's go to the steel production, and let's take a look. What do we have in terms of steel production around the world? So let's take a look. And keep in mind, where you have E estimate, it is all still the speculation by the people who produce this data, because Russians correctly started to publish their completely own information, and you cannot rely, for example, when it comes to Russia, on most of the sources in the combined West. But still, as you can see yourself, here is the steel production. And don't forget, countries produce not only steel, they produce iron, pig iron, and Russia is actually probably next to India in this respect, but I'm not gonna go into this. You have to read my latest book. It's all there. But here's your Germany, here's your Italy, here's your France. Yeah, these are critical countries. So if you put together Germany, Italy, France, and now let's go to the United Kingdom. Okay, you cannot find United Kingdom here. You have to go way down, below there. Here's your United Kingdom. So when you put together this critical four Western countries, which are European countries, they still produce less steel than Russia. And that explains to you pretty much why Russians look at Europeans as the, basically people you don't have even to talk to them. And then, of course, there is, when you look attentively at Barnett 14 points, there is one of the, critical points, and I already pointed out to you that dominates aerospace industry. There is no doubt about that. It is absolutely hard, cold fact that United States and Europe, they dominate commercial airspace air market. Absolutely. Boeing and obviously Airbus, no doubt about it. But let's take a look at something which really matters in terms of the defense and strategic stability and global power balance. We're not gonna go into such air forces as Luftwaffe. It's a joke. They literally cannibalize whatever the Eurofighter Typhoons they have there. We're not gonna go into United Kingdom, which still have some Typhoons, and which are like several dozens of F-35s. We know what F-35 is. Let's go to the only country which on its own produces in Europe their own fighter planes, and of course this is France. I go into the Flight Global magazine, and again, data which is regarding Russia is absolutely out of the sync, but even that we can use it as the bottom line to kind of see for ourselves what we are dealing here with. And here is the France Air Force, which tells you pretty much everything you need to know. This is Flight Global, their data for the 2024. And if you take a look, and for example, critical issue of the combat aircraft, you can see yourself what we are dealing here in terms of France. For example, you can see yourself that in terms of combat aircraft, we have Mirage 2000 D65. Mirage 2005, it's an obsolete junk, and they already transferred some of it to Ukraine, which it will be shut down. And the only thing which is, it's a decent, pretty good aircraft, Rafale BC with all those upgrades and all that, so you have 92 of them. So there are obviously contracted more coming in, and other than that, if you take a look attentively, most of the special aircraft, a lot of them are actually made by the United States, such as the tankers and things of this nature. So, but this is what they are. And you take a look at their helicopters. There are some helicopters, about 150 of them, combat helicopters. Now let's take a look at Russian Air Force and, those backward Russians. So, as you can see yourself, we begin to look at things which, for example, France and Europe cannot even produce, such as the strategic bombers, while Russia already back into the producing completely updated Tu-160 strategic bombers, which is state of the art. But if you take a look at those numbers, as you can see yourself, they begin to get into the order of magnitude larger. And even if you take a look at the Su-3035 numbers, And Su-34, well, Su-57, we already know it's much larger than 14. There is already a regiment already flying, which is 24 aircraft. So you begin to take a look, and France cannot even produce the fifth generation fighter. They will have their basically, bottom falling off. Now you go into their combat there is also Russian naval aviation, which is equipped with the Su-30 SM and SM-2s, and so it just not comparable. You just cannot even compare. It's like you comparing the bulldog, basically, the German Shepherd or pit bull to Chihuahua, and that's what it is. And look at the combat helicopters, and Russians produce them with enormous speed, and so as you can see yourself, Ka-52 alone is around the number of the whole combat helicopters in France Air Force. And as you can see yourself, there's obviously Ka-52s, there are obviously Mi-24-35s there, and of course the huge number of Mi-28. So yeah, you look at this, and even their trainer and light bomber aircraft such as the Yak-130, it already has 118 produced. So there you go. You cannot even compare in terms of their advanced cutting edge air forces and air technology with Europeans. They simply are not there. And as I already stated, there will be interference run, which has already been run by the United States. F-35 is coming to Europe, and that's going to happen. Now, Europeans, of course, pretend that let's not do fifth generation, which they can't do fifth generation. They can talk about whatever they want about the radar and that they have the fifth generation capability. None of those radars, including this Captor radar on the, for example, Rafales, and they have the European versions on the Typhoon, they have the range, let alone weapons, which all of them, such as AIM-120 MRAM, are made in the United States, including for Rafale. They have this Mica missile, French missiles. Guess what it is? It is essentially the same, MRAM in terms of its capabilities. And about 160, 180 kilometers range, which is still outranged by Russian R-77. And then we go into the field of the R-37, and there's nobody even close there. Again, the Europeans don't even know what hypersonic is in any respect. So, and when you look attentively at that, and you look at their plans, they decided, let's go for the sixth generation, whatever that is, this baloney with the generations. And they now say that, we are making this, the future combat air systems. They're, basically Airbus explains what it is. Wow, they talk about system of the systems with their new weapons, basically a new generation weapon system. And they say that, it's coming sometime in 2040s. Good luck, guys. I doubt it's coming, but whatever. By the time that thing will come out, I don't know what Russia will be fielding, but we have an idea what it will be fielding, because including the aircraft, which probably will be capable of conducting their operations in the near space. So, but that's what it is. And this is just one of the indicators. And then, of course, you go into the European armor. It's a joke. Remember Leopard 2A, whatever the hell, I already don't remember all those modifications. It's the best tank in the world. All of them burned. Those which ever, faced their combat or battlefield, they are gone. Challengers is a joke. It's not a tank. It's crap, essentially. This is classic British crap in terms of same as their cars. And there you go. French Leclercs, why don't they put Leclerc into the zone of the special military operation and see how fast that thing will be blown up to smithereens? But they know it, and that is why they cry, because they understand they are gravy train in terms of the support through such criminal organizations as US aid is coming to an end. Evidently, out of the very many important initiatives, at least which Trump can do now, we hear now that you know what, Mr. Epstein's list will be published on the pedophile center. But you cannot help this with Europe because pedophilia there is becoming very center, you know, especially in France. That's normal thing for them. And so, what can I say? When you begin to compare those things and you look at actually what they are capable of producing, bar some products by Siemens and, as I already stated, Airbus. Nobody argues. Airbus is a great company. They produces outstanding commercial airliners. The rest of it, I mean, really? So, yeah. And especially with the prices and no energy and no resources, I don't know. Europe doesn't have a bright future. But that's what, for example, Mr. Trump also says. And we'll see what they will be able to, you know, Russians and Americans do, you know, talking to each other in Saudi Arabia. Again, don't expect any good news and things like that which are happening immediately. No, but it is a good start to start at least talking, you know. Other than that, yeah, there will be no freezing. There will be essentially what Russians already set up, some bottom line demands. They will be met, and after that, we'll see. And this is what I wanted to tell you on this Monday. And as always, in conclusion, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee and two. I would really appreciate this. So have a nice rest of your week, and I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.